Brett Allen here. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. We are chatting more Reno 911. It's a wonderful heist. And of course, we would be remiss without mentioning Rocko's Modern Life comedy. As you can see the poster behind Carlos Alazraqui. Thank you for your time today. It's a pleasure to meet you.
You're welcome. And just in case you wondered, I do play James Osvaldo Garcia on Reno 911. It's a wonderful heist. And if you have or haven't seen the movie, something happens between me and the diminutive Brad Williams. I would say there might be a weapon involved and a false discharge, but you're going to have to check it out. Thank you for having me. I'm in my Argentina scarf. I was watching Argentina make it to the finals of the World Cup. I was, of course, rooting for the United States. And it's interesting. The United States' first game was on December 3rd, the day, of course, that Reno 911, It's a Wonderful Heist, launched on Comedy Central.
Yeah, so that's cool. Two massive events. We had your castmate Mary on a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And we were waiting to capture this with you so we could release them together. How fun is this? I mean, this show has truly stood the test of time. And she made a joke, the cockroach of comedy, she called it, because it's just lasted so long and it's so important and still relevant today. Like, it's just funny all around.
Yeah, we're like a good quality Holiday Inn Express. We'll always be there, right? We're good. We know you're gonna get a good free breakfast in the morning. We really have. It's just a formula and a cast that worked well with the formula. And anytime they ask us back in whatever iteration of it, it could be a live performance. It could be that we showed up for a sheriff election in Reno to support one of the candidates. We just seem to fall right back into place and make it easy to make specials and series and movies and Quibi size shorts. And it keeps going.
It's I think it's outlasted a lot of different things that have been on past, present, and probably the future as well. Even during COVID, you guys were filming. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Every time you get invited back, how does it feel to put that suit on, so to speak, or uniform in your case, to play this character who truly is a part of pop culture Americana, I think, because I remember when this came out originally in the 90s on Comedy Central, and now it's just, you've had films, you've had television specials, YouTube shorts, TikTok now. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, it might have felt like the 90s because we've been around for so long, but actually the very first pilot was 2001 in San Pedro, California.
Okay.
We presented it to Fox. Fox passed. They had the material. Jim Sharp approached Ben, Tom, and Carrie and said, listen, I'm at Comedy Central now. It's circa 2002. What do you got? We got this pilot called Reno. Do you want to reshoot it? We'll reshoot the pilot shot for shot, and now we'll present it to Comedy Central. And Comedy Central said, yes, we're going to series in 2003. And so the official launch was 19 years ago, right? 2003. So, and it feels great. There's a reverence for playing Garcia. You know, there's periods where I wasn't on the show along with Wendy and Mary, and then there was a Christmas of 20-something, and they said, we're going to make it again. I was like, yeah, I'll put on the polyester again. Let's do it. And in between that, there were some live shows, the San Francisco Sketch Fest.
Yes.
And things like that, where I appeared as a ghost in Jacob Marley Change to scare the heck out of Jones. So, yeah, I like putting on a fake polyester, putting on that mustache, or growing a real one if I can do it. I think I grew a real one this time. But, yeah, it's awesome. It's just fun. It's very Our Gang Little Rascals. We get to play again, so I love it.
Yeah, and you all seem to do so well together. It's improv at its finest. And I asked Mary the same question. I'm very curious. Do you find yourself in moments where you find it difficult to not laugh at what's going on around you? Because some of this is just so over the top. It's especially this film. It's just, I feel like I made a joke about the envelope getting pushed, and she's like, well, the envelope's probably in the garbage can at this point.
Yeah, on fire.
With a little bit of poop on it, maybe, and some other stuff, because and people still love it, and it flies under the radar.
Yeah, it's very unheralded sometimes, and then you look at it and you realize, yeah, guys, this stuff is evergreen. It's great. But yeah, the two words that always launch us back in the season are, "Oh, hey, gang," and that's Tom Lennon doing the morning briefing as Dangle, and I'm always laughing during the morning briefing. And then with TT, this time in the movie, there's a TT chase scene, and I have to hold it together because Niecy is so incredible as that character. There's classic clips of me breaking with TT, with Wendy, with Cedric. I break with everybody. I'm a scene ruiner. I have to run off camera often, and yeah, it's hard when you're in it and somebody's going to do something that you have no idea what they're going to do. It's very hard for me to hold it sometimes. I got to chew gum or fake like I'm coughing.
Or maybe hide behind something. That's a classic move.
There is a classic clip out there of when TT thinks she's won the lottery, and we have to inform her in a little shop mart that she has not won the Nevada lottery. She's, in fact, bought a California ticket. And she breaks down, and you literally see me running off camera. I have to run off. And you hear Wendy as her character go like, "Yeah, Garcia, why don't you just go and take a moment for a while? You go do that." Because she knows I've lost it. So, we cover for each other.
Yes, and there's the scene recently where they're on an airplane trying to find somebody who's inappropriately dressed, and they're literally profiling every single person on the plane, which is kind of funny and very relevant to these times, I think.
Right.
But let's talk about your journey, because you've done this, you've done improv, you've done stand-up, you're a voice actor. Where did the journey begin for you, Carlos, as a storyteller, and you sort of knew this was what you were meant to be doing?
I think voiceover-wise, my parents being from Argentina, my best friend's parents being from Glasgow, Scotland, there was this need for me to invest in characters and look at how people speak. But I was an athlete all through school. Jock, sports. And then in college, I started doing mime. I had a professor that encouraged me to do stand-up. And then I did stand-up in Sacramento, and I got in a duo. And we used to play at a place called the Metro Bar and Grill on 12th and K. Brian Posehn was a comic back then. Then in 87, I moved to San Francisco, started doing comedy every night. In 89, I started going on the road. In 91, I auditioned for this little project called Rocko's Modern Life. Little voiceover thing, right voice, right place, right time. That launches me into the voiceover world. I moved to LA in 94, and I had been doing stand-up all along. So I knew in college that I wanted to start doing some form of entertainment, not necessarily formal acting or plays or things like that, but stand-up comedy. And that all fed into my voiceover career. And then in 97, 95, I was on the Stephanie Miller Show on UPN. I was a sketch performer, late night talk show. And then I had a couple of years off, and then Taco Bell Chihuahua hit in 97. That kept me home. Christmas 2000, there's an audition for Ben, Tom, and Carrie for a sketch show called The Ugly Americans. And I go in there, I go to network, I go to studio, we make it, we pitch to Fox, they pass, they say, we're going to do something called Reno 911. We make it, like I said, aforementioned, they pass. 2 years later, here comes Reno. So for me, wanting to entertain or wanting to emulate people and copy people started very early, because I would hear, "Carlito, no me digas Argentino van a ganar." And then, "Carlos, what you and Kevin going to do tomorrow? You should better stay inside. He's going to be cold." So right away, I'm just attracted to characters and voices and dialects. And I think that's what all launched my spirit for wanting to be an entertainer. But Reno was just very unique opportunity where none of us auditioned as our characters. And back then it was Amy Brissett played my daughter, and Wendy was not a part of the original pilot, nor was Mary. But we're so glad they came along. But we said, go home and think about characters. You don't have to audition. We're just going to start filming stuff with Beth McCarthy from SNL. And one of the first things we did in a warehouse was Jones and I are investigating a mime out in front of a check cashing place.
Yes.
That, of course, is in season 1. And so that's the first thing we did with Beth McCarthy. We just sort of made it up. And then brilliantly, Ben, Tom, and Carrie said, we're going to ask you the first day on set 20 questions. You don't know what they are, and you just make them up on the spot. What do you like about being a cop? What does cop mean to you? Who's your favorite cop? Who's your least favorite cop? What's your favorite pastry? And so this helped shape who we were sort of organically. And then once we got into our characters, we knew we could just plug into A, B, and C, you know. So it was all done pretty organically, and I think it worked out for everybody.
Yes, 100%. Well, one last question or two here. Having lived in the Bay Area for a very long time and
Mm-hmm.
seen a lot of comedy in San Francisco, Sacramento is a really hot spot for comedy.
Yeah.
Sacramento, I think a lot of people don't know that unless you're obviously a comedian, but it's very popular. And San Francisco, let's talk about your time there in that, because that comedy scene is been around for so long and really has birthed some amazing folks like yourself, present company included, and just constantly is growing and changing. Are there fond memories that you
Yeah.
have from those moments? I'm sure there's dozens, but maybe one that really stands out to you that solidified your place in that world.
I would say there's several. Yeah. I mean, I moved there in '87 from Sacramento. Sacramento, I was doing my thing in a duo and a single. I was hosting at Laughs Unlimited. I met Dennis Wolfberg and Dana Carvey, and I would host there. And then I decided we're moving to San Francisco in '87. I'm toiling around. I'm watching a guy named Warren Thomas and Stephen Pearl and Michael Meehan and Michael Pritchard and Robin Williams and Dana Gould and Bobcat and Linda Hill, Marshall Warfield. Just brilliant comics, one after the other. San Francisco Comedy Day, Alex Bennett in the morning. That's when I grew up as a comedian. I wanted to be like these people. I did 2 times. I did the competition. The second time, and I went on Mark. What's Mark's podcast? WTF. Mark Maron's podcast? And we talked about the time of the competition with Patton Oswalt and Mark and myself and Stephen B. and Richard Kearns. And I think one night I had gotten to perform with Jim Carrey on stage at Cobb's, and one night I was watching Dana Gould on stage. I don't know. It must have been 95, 90, no, 94, late 93, 94, and I'm watching Dana Gould at Cobb's at the end of North Point.
Wow.
And I hear this voice walk up behind me and go, "Hey, you're the voice of Rocko. My daughter loves Rocko." And I turn around and it was Robin Williams. I'm like, "Oh my God, I've arrived. He knows who I am." And then I would subsequently go on to work with Robin on both Happy Feets and get to know him much better. And, but that was a moment that I knew I had sort of arrived. I had been on Alex Bennett. I had been tooling around a comedy, and Robin knew who I was. And so I'll never forget that moment, obviously. But that comedy scene was so strong. Bob Rubin, the old Rubes in town, David Philman, Larry Bubbles Brown, Johnny Steele. And the Punchline was going on Sunday nights, and Hutch, you would sign up, and other cafe. At one time in 1989, there were 5 clubs in the city: the Other Cafe, the Holy City Zoo, Cobb's, the Improv, and the Punchline. And so you could get almost like New York 5 sets a night. You could develop your skill, and then go into Walnut Creek, and then go to San Jose, and then go to Novato. There was like 12 or 13 comedy places within a 40-mile drive, and so we just started developing. And 87 to 94 is my formative development in the comedy scene, because I was watching all these great acts, the Rob Schneiders, Chris Titus, all these guys, just brilliant acts to walk in, and a great place to learn and grow.
Well, you're bringing back a lot of memories. I'm in Colorado now, but I remember hitting a lot of those places. Sally Tomatoes.
Yeah.
I mean, just that, and that is where I saw some huge names and just amazing. I don't know if you know Tony Sparks, but
I know that name.
Runs a lot of that in the East Bay mostly now, like the Sallys and the Nevados. Like he's taken over that scene, and really, I had an interest at one point in comedy and improv, and he met with me a few times and did an open mic, and it sort of led to the iteration of doing this. But I remember just seeing so many amazing people perform. And again, you have those big spots, but also there's I don't know if underground would be a fair way to describe it, but really just hot comedians performing everywhere in the Bay Area. And then they wind up maybe becoming a host or the door person at Cobb's or the Punchline, all of those places. And they are, it's just as competitive with them as opposed to maybe like a Joe Coy. They're just all funny, and it's a hot spot for comedy. And again, I've been a fan of yours for a while, even.
No, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Pre Reno 911 and just watching you perform. And I remember the San Francisco Sketch Fest and you guys showing up and just, tearing the house down, because it was so unexpected to see all of you show up. And this film is great. It's available to watch and stream now. Please check it out. The QAnon, that was another one that just is so
Very
funny.
bizarre. Very bizarre.
Yeah.
This one, if you want to argue, this one has more of a plot. But I got actually COVID halfway through this one, and I only got to film half of what I was supposed to, but I got a lot of great stuff in there. This one was just so fun with Bobby Moynihan and our usual guests, and Mark Evan Jackson and Gary Anthony Williams, and Jim Jeffries was outstanding. You know, he was great. Brad Williams, I mentioned. We did a great guest cast. Niecy's wife, Miss Betts. Great. Just a lot of fun. It's goofy. It's stupid. It's total Reno. We're in a damp, ugly mall. We're desperate as ever. And it's fun. It's a really fun movie.
Yes, you've mentioned some.
Nick Swartzen.
Yes, some other great names. Gary, we've had on the show. Brad, we've had on the show.
Yeah.
So all very smart. And I just have respect for what you do as a comedian. Well, voiceover too, but subsequently the comedy, because it's just so different and is really a pure art form that as it can be. And it's fun to watch. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. I really appreciate your time, Carlos.
You're welcome, Brad. Thank you.